My first job after college was working for the city of Hayward. And Hayward was trying to encourage family housing because some elderly housing was being built and very little family housing was being built. The mayor at that time was Eileen Weinreb, who embraced the idea and worked closely with me to try and do that program.
I've always been interested in housing, and affordable housing was obviously something that doesn't happen automatically. You've got to make it happen.
Eileen suggested we consider contracting with a nonprofit.
So I convinced some of my League of Women Voters friends to come up and to advocate for it. Not only did I have to find a group that would care about it, but it had to be one that was capable.
And Eden Housing was a respected group of volunteers, but didn't have any staff. So she said, why don't we see if Eden would want to take on the responsibility of building family housing? Then I found out I had to compete for the job, and I had the good fortune of having Bill Vandenberg interview me and ask me, what do you know about housing development? And I said, not a lot, but I'm very enthusiastic and I'm sure I could figure it out.
Bill Vandenberg in particular recognized the need at the time for affordable housing.
If we couldn't find housing, then we would build housing. There was an associate dean from the University of California and the School of Architecture. There were 2 or 3 ministers and several others of us who were active in the community.
Fortunately, we've always had a board that was committed to what we were doing, and there was not a lot of bickering.
In the beginning, we chose 6 houses. Each one of us took 6 families.
And did 6 Habitat for Humanity style houses. And they each worked with that family to renovate their house.
It was a sense of accomplishment. There's no question about that.
That was rather laborious and challenging, but they did it.
If we can do it now on this scale, and perhaps we can do it on a much larger scale.
It was amazing because they didn't have a professional staff, and they were able to find architects and engineers and kind of find their way. And from that, they ended up deciding to do a larger project, which was called Josephine Lodge.
Josephine Lum, we didn't know, but one of our early board members was a minister, and she was in his congregation, and he started talking to her about Eden Housing and what we were doing. And when she died, she didn't have any relatives, and so she left her house to Eden Housing. We sold the house, and that was the initial money for Josephine Lum Lodge, which we did name after her.
So we were one of the few nonprofits that had a bankroll, so to speak.
You know, that was really a very lucky thing.
We used to have breakfast meetings at the International Pancake House up on Foothill.
The board would meet there because they didn't have offices.
And it was kind of humorous.
And that was their formal meeting, and each of them was doing all of the work of the organization.
It was really an experience.
We built solar townhomes. It was the most energy efficient unit in the state of California. The average energy bill was $8 a month.
Doing double pane windows.
Solar panels.
And I compliment our staff because they are thinking ahead of time on green technology.
An ordinary builder who builds in themselves doesn't have to think about things like that. But we build and keep.
Remember, this is 30+ years ago. It was way ahead of its time.
It hadn't occurred to us when we got started that it was more than just housing they needed. People needed services.
I've always believed that the residents really are clientele.
The residents are the customers.
We are big on delivering services to our residents. It starts with a home, but it's not just about the home.
They were started by volunteers with the tenants in mind.
We're going to be a thriver for the next 45 years.